MLB The Show 24 released just about 6 months ago. That means 6 more months until the show 25. It's no secret that there's been a clear disconnect between the players and the developers of MLB 24. The game got off to a terrible start, received horrid reviews, and was constantly bashed online for predatory practices, and overall is just putting out the same game from last year, and 2 years ago, and 3 years ago. The same game without much change. And since we're at that halfway point within the game cycle, I think it's time to have a sit-down discussion and talk about, did they fix things? Has the game gotten any better? From people's complaints about packs, claims the game is not rewarding enough. We're going to talk about that and so much more. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Overall, your thoughts on the year MLB The Show 24. How have you enjoyed the game? From the offline modes of Franchise and Road to the Show to Diamond Dynasty and gameplay. Have things improved in your opinion? Do you think it's getting any better? And does that bleed optimism heading into a 6-month cycle into MLB The Show 25? Let's get into it. So I have to be honest. The beginning part of MLB 25, and I'm talking the first couple weeks, were quite fun. Much like the predecessor, MLB The Show 23, where the World Baseball Classic content debuted right out the gate, there was a lot of interesting stuff. The new concept of the sets and seasons, the negatives hadn't really hit in as the game just launched, so there was still nuance, there were still things to explore. And I thought MLB 24 got off to a decent spot until they fucked it all up and started putting out all their content within packs. Week by week, the same thing would come. No new programs, nothing really for players to actually play. Just a couple of packs within the store for people to spend money or spend stubs on cards that a week from now were going to be irrelevant with the new expedited power creep. People were pissed. I mean, simply put, there wasn't much to do within the game outside of getting stubs to buy the packs, to use those cards for about a week, sell them, and then rinse and repeat. You know, just essentially use it as a barter system. Take this card, this 93 overall that you bought this Friday, and the next week, you're going to sell that card and buy a new 94 overall for the same price. It just wasn't fun, and you weren't experiencing anything new unless you put in money into the game, or if you grinded the market and used the stubs. There wasn't anything actually to play in a video game, especially when you look at modes like ranked seasons, which, puzzling enough, still to this day, you do not earn progress within the program for winning a game. So you gather the game was in a bad place. Packs were prevalent more than ever. The show built their reputation as an ultimate team mode by going against the grain, not being like 2K or not being like Madden in FIFA, making the game rewarding to play, but now they went the pack route. If you want to experience new content, you are going to have to pay for it, one way or another. Only for the cards you paid for to eventually be restricted in most modes you'd want to play, and the modes you'd want to play were getting worse and worse, less rewarding by the minute. And by the time Season 2 came around, a lot of players had already checked out. They were frustrated with how things were going, and they didn't want to have a complete reset of their team. But eventually the show would start to come around a little bit. By All-Star content in July, they had made things a lot better, or at least getting back on the track of where the game used to be, MLB The Show 21-22 era, releasing a flurry of content for players to enjoy. Exclusive conquest maps to earn cards that they need for collections. Dishing out tons of fun cards for players to use, celebrating the All-Star break. And of course there were still packs, however, they started to actually listen and give those out. You were guaranteed a free Home Run Derby pack, a draft pack, an All-Star pack, and then another one of each. So yes, they still had 99 overalls and packs cards that you would want, but you had a chance to get those for free, and also exclusive cards that you had to actually play for. I think that's the best marriage of that situation, helping out the consumer, but also, still leading the publisher to have something desirable. And from there, MLB released a trio of Hall of Fame programs celebrating the careers of Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer, and Todd Helton, which were also fantastic. Getting to play through the younger moments of their career, leading up to a 99 overall reward for some of the best cards in the game. And they continued their stride by releasing program after program of genuinely good and exciting cards, like the 99 Francisco Lindor, the Yordan Alvarez. It was getting to the point where the pack content almost didn't really need to exist, because they were putting out so many cards and so many good cards that there was no point to even look at the pack store, which is kind of where we used to be. There might be a card or two that piques your interest in the marketplace, but for the most part, you're kind of good with what you have. So heading into season 3, SDS again showed that they are listening. They knew that their fans would not want to start back with 89 overalls and go throughout the 3-month-long power creep once more. So they raised the starting point to 95, promising that you would get to 99s even quicker than the prior seasons, expanding the XP cap per day, doubling it to 30,000, shortening the XP reward path to ensure that you'll have time to use and enjoy the cards that you actually earned. And they decided to release a very fun new card series, Out of Position, celebrating players almost in a pseudo-reality of what could have been if they explored a different position earlier on. Like Kenley Jansen, who, while coming up through the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, was a catcher. And that brings us to today. I mean, this is my team 3 weeks into season 3. It is stacked. I mean, we have 99s at every position except DH, which is a 98. And that's also thanks to their decision to retain people's wild cards. We talk about the restriction going into each season. Before, they said wild cards would not transfer between seasons. You would have to re-earn them each time, but they went back on that decision to ensure you could use the cards, or at least up to 4 of the cards that you earned in prior seasons to begin season 3, which I thought was a great decision because, again, it is not fun as a player to have gone through that much time spent working on your team for those cards to essentially be useless months down the line. So, still not a fan of the season's concept, but they did make it, it's kind of like Flex Seal. They put duct tape over it for now. The crack is sealed, but for how long? And the programs that they've put out so far have been pretty good. It's tough because they're still teetering on going back to those predatory practices from earlier. You look at the first couple programs within here, you see a 95 overall card, which, like we said, is what they wanted to start the minimum overall at. That's what Team Affinity is. But the pack content was higher valuation, and we went 2 weeks without getting an opportunity at any of those cards. So while you were getting a 96 here, in turn, in the pack market, there were 98 overalls available, which there should be the same overall. That's what they strive for in Season 2, correcting their issues, and then they went back on it. But we got a really good drop 3 of Season Awards, getting this 98 Kyle Schwarber, which is a ton of fun. He is super good. And we also got this sick 99 Corbin Carroll. Again, 2 really fun cards within the program that, for my money, are better than what they released in packs, which that's a great thing. Also dropping this 99 Roberto Clemente program, featuring yet again a very fun and a very good card. Now, that's not to say they are not releasing pack content, of course. Some of it still being very good. They just did release this Luis Robert card within Headliners, which is going to go for a decent penny. He will go down in price eventually, and you've got the Sammy Sosa. a very high ticketed player, one of the big legends revealed in MLB The Show 23, and they continue to pump out pack content every Tuesday, every Friday. They're going to put new stuff in here, but the big difference is that you're seeing good stuff within programs, that there's something for you to actually do within the game outside of running to the pack market and using that for a week, which is the biggest problem that plagued the game and really turned people away in April and in May. So I think they're doing a much better job getting people up to pace and ensuring that people are going to get these cards without having to treat the game like a job. You see the XP reward path, 350k within about a month and a half time. Considering how often they've been running double XP and increasing the payouts of XP within program completion, it's going to make it a hell of a lot easier for people to use these cards. Again, that's been my biggest issue with Ultimate Team modes as a whole. You can't treat your game and treat your players as if they are going to a 9-to-5 job to complete your game, to have fun and stay current, because that's where the disconnect happens. There's about 90% of the people at play that are, going to play MLB in addition to Call of Duty, in addition to college football. And there's 10% that are going to go head on, the big competitive players, the grinders, the ones that are going to complete everything of the game. But that 90% has a tough time, and that's where the sets and seasons model really hurts. That's where the endless grind for stuff that's going to inevitably be taken away from them, that's where the gut punch hits. And I think coming into MLB The Show 25, it's a deal breaker for a lot of people. Sets and seasons must go. I know that we talked about improving things within this year's game. They weren't realistically going to tear down the Berlin Wall within the year. They weren't going to get rid of that model that they've been building for the past year and a half. All we could hope for realistically is that it would get a bit better. It would make it a bit more equitable for the people still playing and maybe pull back a couple more people in because of the quickened progress and not having to go 1 million XP to finally start getting to some of the cards that you want to use. But it's tough to get people interested in a 99 Aaron Judge that's a Season 2 card when you release the same card in Season 1. And that, for a lot of people, I think is where sets and seasons makes no sense. When you have the same person, Aaron Judge, or any player, Shohei Ohtani for that matter, the same card just released in a different set. So even if you bought that Aaron Judge within Season 1, well, now you've got to collect 80 cards to get this one. Unless you want to use a wild card, which you only get 4 of at maximum. 4 cards out of the hundreds that you earned in the prior season, that's no good. And they're changing things up a bit when you look at these missions within Team Affinity. They now make it so you can use out-of-set cards and you'll still get progress. You don't have to only use the new guys if you want to go and play the U.S. Conquest map. If you want to go play Classic Mini Seasons with those cards, you can do so and earn progress, but when you're talking about the events mode, the ranked seasons mode, a lot of conquest maps, like the Team Affinity ones of the current season, you still have to use eligible players. You have to have a Season 3 eligible roster. That's where it gets tough for people, is they've spent so much time getting their favorite players from their favorite team, and now they only get access to a fraction of them in the modes that they probably want to play. So I think bottom line into MLB 25, you've got to take away sets and seasons. You have to open up the eligibility for people once again. It is a big deviator of people wanting to play the game when they can't use the cards that they want to. Think of me as a Twins fan. I was giddy when we had such a good team within Season 2. I was so happy to use that team. But now, again, I get access to so few of those players. I can wildcard up to 4, but there's more than 4 players on a team. Last time I checked from Gap Tooth Robert Manfred, 26, 28 in September. So do away with the sets and seasons concept and innovate Innovate where it needs to happen. The core concept of Diamond Dynasty was fine as it was. The game was getting tedious and boring to people because visually it hadn't changed. In the commentary team, it hadn't changed. Gameplay, it hadn't changed. Have you noticed how the same meta concept has been the up and in sinker for years and years? Make defense matter more. We talk about that so often. Ozzie Smith was a bad hitter in his time, but he's a Hall of Famer because he was that much better with the glove than anybody else. So I want to see your Ozzie Smiths, your Andrelton Simmons, your Kevin Kiermaier, Dalton Varsho's. Those kind of defenders really need to play leaps and bounds better than anybody else. Your quirk system is garbage when it's based on, for live series players, their past year played. 97 Chris Bryant, signature series, world champion with the Cubs. Most valuable player has no quirks because of a flawed system. A lot of people are tired of seeing the same card get released ad nauseum. So many Kyle Schwarbers. Well, it's a necessity with their captain system. You need to make it more like Madden, where if a player has ever played for that team, they should get credit. Kyle Schwarber should be a Cub, a Philly, a National, a Red Sox, all teams that he's played for. So then you don't have Cleveland fans being butthurt about, well, Francisco Lindor is a very important player for our franchise. Well, we can't use this card and get a boost. Or there wouldn't be a need for them to release 19 different Max Scherzers within each MLB calendar year, because you could have this 99 Scherzer for the Nationals fit for every team that he's played for. So they have improved within this year, but there's so much more work to be done. The fatigue has long since set in for not only MLB, but for all sports games. Yes, baseball is baseball, and the sport can only change so much, but it is a problem when the game looks identical from last year, the year before, from 3 years before. It's not a good thing when I'm watching a video of MLB The Show from years past, and the only thing that makes it a clear indicator that it's not the current year is the billboards that say The Show 20 in the background. And that is not even touching on the offline content, franchise mode, road to the show, which I do want to make a separate video talking about how they can actually give life to that, because I think we've seen from games like College Football 25, there is a lot of people interested in creating their own story within a video game. Hell, that's how I got into MLB The Show in the first place. That's why I've got such a vast knowledge of like the late 2000s, early 2010s, like all those rosters. I have a sickly memory of all the players from there because I lived on franchise mode. And I think ultimately, the Ultimate Team mode is not going to last. I think that eventually we will see a return of offline content, maybe with some sort of twist, making it more online and connected with friends. But I think that is the future for not just MLB, but for all sports games. I don't know how much longer you can teeter the same legends, the same Aaron Judge card year after year that plays the same and expect people to be, there you go, take the MasterCard. So let me know in the comments section what you guys think about MLB 24 and what really could get your interest back for not only this game, but heading into the next year's title for 25. How can they wow you? How can they show that this is not the same game as before? I know we talked a long time. I scheduled for my calendar MLB The Show 24 Ramble. I think we hit that bill. Thank you all for watching this one. I'll see you guys next time.